My dear brother Dave Wren of Prosperity Mint. I'm going to have that address scrolling across the bottom. I'm so happy when you called me earlier and we had the same thing on our mind. We spoke about the Will Smith, Chris Rock smack, but you took it to a whole entire different level on what you saw. I did a piece earlier and spoke about it and speculated how it was a distraction, but I brought it up to that point and didn't say what you shared with me. I told them if they want to get the rest of it and understand why it's a distraction, they're going to have to come on in on this show. So I welcome everybody who's in the chat room and who's viewing. Keep the words going. Brother Dave Wren, you know you are my true brother. You have proved that to me over and above. And everything that we've talked about over the years, it's coming true. And I mean, that leaves me privy to this information. And you are gifted. You are here for that reason, to inform us. And anybody who has any doubt in their mind, you will be a knower at the end of this broadcast. Not a believer, but one who knows. Brother Dave Wren, the floor is yours. I'm here with you. And let's roll. Talk to me, brother.
Definitely, Lance. And once again, bro, thank you for who you are, what you do. And thank you for just being my friend, who I definitely call a friend. I'm looking forward to doing a lot of major things with you in the future, privately, publicly, you know, business-wise, and everything else. Because our change is only going to grow, and it's going to grow our overall wealth. And we want to share that with everyone because there's enough to go around. You know, when you really think about it, how wealthy is the universe? How wealthy is how wealthy is the universe, and how much of that is for our partaking that the great creator had, you know, allowed us to be able to do. And it's boundless. It's infinite. It's always providing. And wealth is something that sustains life. That's very important. It doesn't sustain riches. Riches is not sustained by wealth. Wealth sustains life, and it sustains life eternally, continuously, eternally, because it's an energy form and it's living. And so a relationship should be very living engagements. And that's definitely what we've always had and we always will have, bro. So we're gonna, we're supposed to do a show a while ago, but I wanted to wait until the appropriate time because of the importance of it. And what we're going to talk about today is probably the most important event that is going to happen to people here in the United States collectively. It will be the single most important event, more important than the Civil War, more important than, slavery, more important than any of the other wars, and more important than the United States being put into a position of financial, military, and geopolitical dominance all over the world. And it happened today. And it's going to continue to unfold. And Lance and I, as Lance said, if you go back to some of our old show, if you go particularly to the HR 5404 show, I think, Lance, we did that, 2 years ago?
Yes.
And that was the canary in the coal mine moment to say what was coming, in the line of demarcation has been passed this morning, today, on the 28th of March. And if you're unaware of what happened, believe me, not knowing what has happened, but what you will feel is the consequences of what happened. And I want the consequences of what happened to be beneficial to you, because it can either be beneficial to you or it can be the greatest burden that will extend into generations that you have yet not named. And it's just that important. And so I wanted to, relay that to you all and to help you all. We are definitely going to be putting together a seminar. Now I've changed it. We're going to have 2 seminars because I know many people that listen to you, Lance, they haven't had the introductory seminar or the foundation of the seminar to be able to continue to really engage with some of my clients that have been with me for years. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a seminar together. Remind me, Lance, to tell everyone at the end of this. I'll give you that information because I really do want to get into the overall information in the heart of this whole matter. So with that being said, we will definitely give our information. For those of you that contacted us before, we still will get with you, but I'm going to give you a more direct way to contact us and so that we can service your overall needs. And I will tell you, this is something that you definitely need because I don't want you to lose everything that you work so hard for. And that is a possibility, or you can actually gain and maximize. And the real thing is that you're going to be able to really multiply your efforts if you are aware of how to do it. Okay. So Lance and I were speaking, and I know a lot of people were probably watching or have seen something from the Oscars last night. Well, I will tell you, that wasn't the Smackdown that you should be paying attention to nor giving energy to. It was really a prelude to the real Smackdown that really happened. And the real Smackdown was the dollar and all of the US dollar and all of its dependents were smacked down on Saturday. And it came in and is coming into full fruition today on Monday. Saturday, the 26th, there was a major announcement. Lance, I sent it to you. It was Saturday or Friday. I sent it to you in our little thread, and it was the one that was from Reuters. And very important. Let me pull it up real quick myself.
Okay.
And if Lance wanted to pull it up, that's great. Now, this is the Smackdown that you should be speaking about, should be preparing for, and should be fully aware of what it means and what's going on. And before we get started in that, let me give a little history because it's necessary in this type of form to see what's going on. Okay.
Yes.
So right now, everyone is now aware of, the overall conflict between Russia and the Ukraine and the potential war between NATO and Russia. Well, Lance and I were doing shows way back, and we were telling our clients, and we were telling some of Lance's listeners, and I was advising our clients that this was going to happen, how it was going to happen, and what it was going to mean. So it wasn't anything new to us. It was already on our radar because by being a full service precious metals dealership, we know what's going to happen monetarily in certain instances, especially with assets before the general public or before the announcement is made, because once the announcement is made, it's too late. It's kind of like if you never get the overall forecast that a hurricane is coming, and the next thing you know, you go outside in a hurricane, you're in the middle of a hurricane, then it's too late to prepare for that hurricane. Now, the only thing that you're going to be doing is responding to it. But if you got forewarning, then you can make the necessary preparation so that you'll have all of the options that's necessary that is going to benefit you so you can get out of harm's way. So information and knowledge and executing that is critical for protection. Not only for protection, but it also builds wealth. It also builds wealth. So we've been speaking about this and advising about this for years now. I would say really for decades. And now we are definitely at that point. So let me give everyone, we spoke about this a little bit before on one of our broadcasts that we had with Lance, but let me give everyone an update as to where we are right now and what just recently happened and why this overall Smackdown was that the real Smackdown was the US dollar and all of its dependents. And what does the word dependent mean? Well, it's you. If you have a paycheck and you are a U.S. citizen and you have a paycheck, if you use the United States Federal Reserve note to purchase your goods as a medium of exchange of purchasing your goods that you need, or the services that you need. If you use the US dollar, you're dependent. If you have a pension in the United States because you worked within the United States and you had earnings that you made in the United States, you're dependent. If you are a taxpayer in the United States, you're dependent. If you are a citizen of the United States, you're dependent. If you have invested interests in the United States by way of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, any other form of investment that's dollar denominated, you are dependent. If you have anything financially tied to you that's US dollar, Federal Reserve note correlated or used or connected, if you're connected to the US dollar in any way, you are a dependent of the US dollar. And the US dollar, ladies and gentlemen, has just been killed. And its overall life expectancy is just received that its best way to put it is just received its terminal notice that its debt and its use and its lifeline is probably about, I hope that it will have a year to live or 9 to 10 months to live, but it shall surely die. And as it dies, it's going to lose strength before its lights go completely out. And that means it does. And this will, I don't care if you have $1 million of cash, US dollars in the bank, what you have is nothing more than a coupon. That coupon is a paper note, a debt instrument that's going to zero. I do not care how much you have. It's going to zero. It's going to zero. And how it got there was this. Give you a little background. After World War II, during World War II, Russia and the United States were allies in fighting the Germans. And during that time, there was some, as the war started to unfold and there was going to be a clear winner, the United States and Russia and the allies fell out with Russia. And one of the things that's important about Russia is its geographical location. Is the largest landmass of all of the countries in the world, but it doesn't have the population for that overall landmass. The United States actually has about the same or even more citizens in the United States than Russia has. And Russia is much bigger because most of Russia is uninhabitable. Okay. And so, but one of the things about Russia is that it is a it is a hub of natural resources, particularly critical natural resources, oil, natural gas, precious metals, other critically important minerals. And so because of that, it is an asset-rich country, but doesn't have the overall infrastructure to fully utilize that. But they have enough to where they are still a nuclear superpower in an asset-rich country. And so since then, there was the falling out, and NATO was actually put together, the North American Treaty Organization, okay? And what happened was it North Alliance? Yeah, I forgot what NATO stands for. It doesn't really matter. North Alliance Treaty Organization, I believe. Yes, right.
There you go. Yeah.
So I said North American. So NATO was actually created for one reason and one reason only. that was two reasons: to suppress Russia's ability to have global dominance and to ultimately destroy Russia to take all of its natural resources. That was the original and the still intended purpose of NATO. NATO does not exist for any other reason. If there was no Russia or former Soviet Union, Russia, then there would be no NATO. NATO was created as a block of countries that can combine their overall militaries and their military budget to suppress and ultimately destroy Russia. And Russia knows that and has always been fully aware of that. NATO has far more military superiority as far as aircraft, combat troops, equipment, capabilities, naval capabilities, to where they could actually nullify and defeat Russia conventionally very, very easily. Okay, very easily. But the one thing that NATO doesn't have is that NATO doesn't have the ability to nullify Russia, their nuclear arsenal. And Russia has a more advanced nuclear arsenal than NATO, the NATO members, including the United States. So what Russia has going for it, it has two things going for it. Number one, it is a hub of natural resources that the world needs to be able to have an economy. So Russia, and because of that, they are able to, and they're now invoking their will on the global economy, where they can tell the global economy what to do. You heard the old saying, the golden rule: those with gold make the rules. Well, it's not only just gold, it's assets. When you have real assets, you tell the economy what to do. It doesn't tell you what to do. If you don't have assets and you have ownership, you have currency, what happens is that the economy tells you where to be, when to be there, how long to be there, at what rate of pay. It tells you what to do. Okay? When you control resources, you tell the economy what to do. And when you speak, the economy listens, because you control the overall asset and the overall underlying foundation of its existence. So the real economy is based off of assets. Okay, so Russia has a significant amount of critically important assets. So it is definitely a major player on the global economic stage. But now, because of that, they're able, that what they did was they were able to conjoin their military capability, which their advanced nuclear capability, to protect their resources. Now they are now in a position of an economic superpower. And now, because of what they're able to do now, they become the premier economic superpower. China is an economic superpower because of its capabilities and some of its assets. But the one thing about Russia is this, is that Russia has more advanced nuclear capabilities through hypersonic glide missiles. China has hypersonic missiles that they've been successful, but they don't have the advanced ones that Russia has, which are already in the field. So Russia can deploy those hypersonic glide missiles today. China has tested and has successfully tested. So with their economy and everything else that they have, they're a global economic superpower as well, but they're not as advanced as Russia. And because of this, they don't have the natural resources that that Russia has. China has the labor force. China has the banking and the economic capability through its labor force to be an economic power. And it also is a nuclear superpower as well. But it doesn't have the overall natural resources that is necessary to be able to have the same positioning as a country such as Russia. China is landlocked. So it needs oil, it needs water, it needs to be able to feed its overall population. So that's what it has going for it. The U.S. has a plentiful amount of natural resources here in the United States. So it has everything, that Russia has, but Russia has some things much more in abundance than the United States. And the United States, as we all know, has been known as the military superpower, the big bully on the block, and the predominant country in the world. That was the past, ladies and gentlemen. It is no longer the premier dominant country in the world, even though the dollar, the US dollar currently is known as the dollar hegemony, where the Western or the United States, with its Western partners, are able to dictate monetary policy through the overall bullying of other countries because of its military. Well, that has now been nullified because of this. The United States has hypersonic missiles as well. Every nuclear ICBM is a hypersonic vehicle, but it's not a vehicle that can move. It can just have a trajectory, come up, come down, so you can plot its course and have a chance to shoot it down. A glide missile moves. So since it moves, there's no way that you can track at the speed that is going at plus 9 or 10 Mach 10 or Mach 9 or Mach 10. Is no way in the world that you have the capability of shooting it down. So you have no defense against it. And the United States has been testing those type of weaponries and have failed in their testing. So right now, the only country that has it deployed into its military for deployment to be used is Russia. So now back to NATO. Ever since NATO was created, it has been trying to encircle and to subjugate Russia. Russia has actually had some, hard economic times because they just don't have the overall infrastructure and capabilities as some of the Western economies, but they do have the resources. So in 1991, the Soviet Union broke up, and Ukraine was the first country first region of the Soviet Union to break away from the Soviet Union to start their own country to have an independence. And Ukraine was the first one. Former Soviet bloc country. And so during that time, NATO was purposely involved in that to destroy Russia then, and it continued throughout those years since then. There were other nations that joined NATO that were part of the old Soviet bloc as well. So now they've been enveloping Russia. At the time of 1991, when this happened, Russia was not in the position to defend itself. It had to bite the bullet, reorganize itself, restructure itself through its assets, what it did have under its control, that being the natural resources, and slowly, asymmetrically to reintroduce itself in a position and an ability to not only just survive, but actually thrive and defend itself accordingly. And so that process has been going on since 1991. And now, here in 2022, they've reached that point where they now can defend what they have in the resources. And now what they're going to do is they're going to allow, because they could defend it in a way that no one else can, they are now going to take that defense to put them as one of the premier countries in the world above the United States. And now this is happening. So now as NATO continued to try to envelop and subjugate Russia, Russia now was able to defend itself. And they said, all right, it stops here. We can defend ourselves. It's now time to go. Now, this is what some people say was the overall invasion of the Ukraine, which Vladimir Putin said was a military operation, a special military operation where they were going to demilitarize and denazify the Ukraine. And basically the demilitarization was they weren't going to allow NATO to continue to move its overall military capabilities by allowing the Ukraine to be part of NATO, or to, even if they weren't a part of NATO, but allow them to move in NATO weaponry to nullify Russia. Because if they did do that, what would happen was that they would be able to move tactical or traditional nukes so close to the Russian border that even with their hypersonic glide missiles, they wouldn't be able to respond and defend themselves. So what happened was NATO had backed a nuclear superpower into a corner. And I will tell you this, last thing you ever want to do is to back a nuclear capable superpower into a corner, because what you're doing is you're giving them no option but to use everything that they've developed to defend themselves. So basically NATO was trying to nullify Russia, and it was NATO, and particularly by the US, that was attacking Russia. It was never that Russia was attacking NATO or the United States. Russia is not trying to envelop the United States through Mexico, through Canada, through the Caribbeans, or through any of the islands. They're not trying to do that. But the United States with NATO is doing just that. And you can only do that for so long, especially against someone that can defend themselves, before they will defend themselves. And so that's really where we are historically. That is the truth. And, you know, the United States had become arrogant and inebriated in the wine of splendor because they thought that they could bully everybody into position, because that worked for, you know, since World War II, it's worked pretty well since then. If you look at some of the overall conflicts that the United States has been in, they've been in with conflict with countries that couldn't really defend themselves. Well, now they just poked the bear. Well, I say more, they stabbed the bear, and now the bear being Russia, she's starting to defend herself. And the way she's defending herself is outright a genius, tactical, asymmetrical plan that is going to nullify the United States as a country that we have grown up as knowing. It is not going to be that form of a country in the future. Many would say that, you know, you've heard of different countries as far as their overall classification. The United States, you know, there's first world, second world, third world. The United States has been commonly referred to, and most people are used to, and they can't even see that it could go from a first world nation to a fourth world nation or a third world nation, third class, and that's exactly what's going to happen, because the only reason why the U.S. is able to have a first world status is because it was able to bully the rest of the world into brokering deals that would benefit them and to grow their overall individual corporate wealth and give a appearance that his overall country was wealthy. But they can't do that anymore. And we're starting to see the reorganization of the geopolitical, economic, and military standing around the world. And the U.S. was able to do this by engaging through wars. And I will tell you this, we have to look at these wars totally different. I don't look at wars as far as how it's classified by the institutions, such as World War I, World War II, the Afghan war, the Iraqi war, or the Afghan war, or this war, or that war. I don't look at it that way. When you really look at it for what it truly is, all of them are civil wars. And the reason why this is a civil war, the reason why these are civil wars is because of this. The governments do not fight each other. The governments do not fight each other. The only people that do all of the fighting are the citizens of those individual nations for the overall call and defense of their country. But their countries are not defending them. The countries are exploiting them. So every war that you ever heard of has been nothing more than a civil war where citizens are fighting each other. And if we start to really look at it that way, you can now start to see that fighting a war for someone else at my expense is not in your best interest. You know, it's so funny that, you know, in the Ukraine, before the special military operations by Russia, and most people don't know that the Ukraine was the first one to start putting troops on the Russian borders before Russia did. So they were the ones that actually instigated, and they were the ones that were antagonizing, and they were the ones that were pushing this overall war with Russia. So they were the ones with the first troops on the border. Russia did not have troops on the border. The Ukraine did, at the behestings of who? NATO, who was paying them and was giving them training and was telling them what to do. So, what's now happened because of that is that we've reached a pinnacle point where Russia has built itself to be able to invoke its will now, and it's going to do just that. And we're so used to in the United States, you know, this is why the U.S. has so many bases around the world, because that is the sphere of influence that the U.S. has in those countries. And each base is actually a state of the United States, because those overall bases tell those countries is a direct landmass controlled by the United States. And they're in those nations to ensure that the overall will of the corporation of the United States is adhered to. So now the United States wanted the Ukraine to push this agenda. And I think it's so funny that in the Ukraine, they were never really pro here in the United States, Second Amendments, or where their citizens can actually have firearms to protect themselves. But the moment that Russia came across their border, now all of a sudden they were passing out weapons and firearms to the everyday citizens to protect their country, to protect their so-called their country. But see, the government didn't want the citizens to be able to protect themselves, because they knew that that was really a measure of the citizens protecting themselves from the underlying government. But now when they get themselves into a little skirmish, they want the citizens to pick up arms to defend them. And Lance, if you remember, we did a show when it was one of the shootings.
Yes.
That was happening. And I said, it's mighty funny that the United States they want to get rid of the Second Amendment, but they want you to be the first ones to pick up a gun for them called the military. And I will tell you this, they are going to give you a war, and they're going to send your children to that overall war to die fighting for them. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to call them a hero and everything else. But you know what really happened? They sent their subjugants and their overall slaves to do their bidding. Where here in the States, they don't want you to be able to defend yourself from someone that is threatening you. They want you to do what? Rely on them, to call the police, wait for them to come and everything else. Well, I'll tell you this, when I've never seen a person when their life was in jeopardy and someone else could defend their life where they didn't plead for them to help them. Or if they had the capability to defend themselves where they wouldn't have defended themselves righteously. So I think it's so funny that in this wartime scenario, the only arms that they want you to have is for them, for their use. And I tell you, you continue to live that way, you won't have a life, they will have it. They will have your life. So here's where we are now. Russia, because of the overall forward press, and the forward press being geopolitically, socially, monetarily, fiscally, and militarily, has NATO and the US has been pressing for Russia to collapse. Why would they want Russia to collapse? Very easy, folks. We all know the answer. Because Russia is wealthy in resources. And we are going from a debt-based economy to a resource economy. Why are we going to a debt-based economy? I mean, why are we going to an asset-based economy and not a debt-based economy? Because the rest of the world no longer wants the overall US to dictate monetary policy, where these countries are giving up their natural resources for a worthless piece of paper known as a coupon or a treasury or a Federal Reserve note. It's not equitable. It's not, you're giving up something that's valuable for something that's not valuable. And if you continue to do that long enough, you will ultimately lose all of your resources and be subjugated to those that has the resources now. Someone that's subjugated, a slave is always subordinate to their overall provider. And that provider is of the essentials that they need to survive. So the rest of the world started to asymmetrically position themselves so that they can never, ever, ever be under the overall grip and the overall charge of the U.S. This is what's really happening. This is what's really happening. So now, where are we now? Here's the smackdown. Once Russia engaged in their special military operation to demilitarize the Ukraine. And the demilitarization of the Ukraine was that the Ukraine was actually starting to be beholden and subordinate to NATO and the US to do their bidding, and they were going to be doing it through military engagement. They were attacking ethnic Russians in the western part of the country known as the Donbass, and no one really talks about how they had actually, the Ukrainian military was actually shooting upon its own citizens, but you hear about every day that Russia is targeting citizens. It doesn't make any sense, but that's what the media is supposed to do. It's supposed to tell you what to think, because it doesn't want you to think on your own. It'd be highly important for you to start thinking on your own.
That's right.
So what happens is that the Ukraine was being used. Russia started to say, all right, we're going to demilitarize you. Once the Soviet Union allowed the Ukraine to leave, one of the first things that they did was they said, hey, those nukes that you have there, you need to give them back to us, which they did. But still, the Ukraine was a critically important portion of the Soviet Union because it was known as the breadbasket of Europe and the breadbasket of Russia. So the Ukraine has a lot of natural resources. It has capabilities for nuclear capabilities. And it was a large industrial, it was important industrially, and because of natural resources, because of those natural resources, its industrial output was significantly critical to Russia. So they wanted to take their armaments with them, which they did. But the Ukraine still has the ability, and that's why it was the perfect country for NATO to target for its incursion to split and to break up Russia. And Vladimir Putin and the Russian government and the Russians themselves, they are very fully aware of that, and they know what NATO's plan is. But they weren't in a position to defend themselves at that time. And so now that they're able to defend themselves, they're ready to go. And so this is where this special military operation took place. So that was the demilitarization. It was also, they said they wanted to denazify the Ukraine, because the Ukraine had been purposely developed, and there were Nazis, traditional Nazis of the overall cult of the Nazis of Germany was embedded inside of the Ukraine. And they were boastful about it. And actually the US and NATO were in full support of these political groups and these military groups. There was a military group, a part of their National Guard, that were full-fledged Nazis, full-fledged. They admitted being Nazis. They had the insignias of being Nazis and everything else. And I would say to y'all, do me a favor, go back and look at when the president of the Ukraine addressed Congress recently. Look at the shirt that he's wearing. He has an all green shirt on, and look at his left breast. The insignia on his left breast is known as the Iron Cross, the same Iron Cross of Nazi Germany. And this man, in speaking to Congress, had a Iron Cross on, and that was symbolic in nature. And some say, well, he can't be a Nazi because he has Jewish ties. Well, if you believe that, there's a bridge in Brooklyn that's for sale. It's not true. Nazism is a cult following. It's a cult following. It is not a political organization. Okay. So, you know, there were many. There were people of all faiths that were assisting and had relationships with the Nazis at the expense of the rest of the world. And that overall relationship has not been broken. It actually extends into the United States through the Bush family and many others, through the overall major institutions. And those ties are still there. but we don't want to admit that. And you know, if you listen to some of the overall mainstream media today, they'll say that there are some far right groups inside of the Ukraine. Far right means this, folks, is politically correct for saying Nazis, and politically correct is always morally wrong. Doesn't matter how you slice it. So they just gave it a different name. So they had a overall part of their National Guard of the Ukraine were full-fledged Nazis. That's why Putin said we're going to not denazify the Ukraine. That is the truth. Don't let anybody tell you the difference. And I will tell you something else. He is actually successful in doing this. I want you to think about how difficult do you think it is to invade a country? And they keep talking about how Russia's, you know, it is probably the most difficult thing to do, because I will tell you, militaries were built to fight militaries. Militaries weren't designed to beat people. So when you invade a country, you're not only destabilizing the military, but the people, you're going to be destabilizing them as well. So that is going to be a very difficult endeavor. Look at how much they've gained in just a month's time. Look at how much they've gained. Invading a country, when you go to invade a country, you are basically going on a death march. You're basically going on a death march. The U.S. would have never invaded the Ukraine that way. You know what the U.S. would have done if the Ukraine was the adversary or their target? They would have bombed the hell out of them for about 40 days and 40 nights to totally destabilize their citizens. And guess where their bombs would have been dropping on? Everyone. You got to remember the United States. Everybody always has this false impression of the United States. The United States has been, as a military organization, the greatest act of terror of any of the militaries. They're the only military that used 2 nuclear devices on innocent women and children in Japan. It's the only country to ever do it. And that was an act of terror. Because what they wanted to gain from dropping those bombs is they wanted to be able to gain the overall, be able to have the premier position of economic dominance over the world. So once they did that, the rest of the world was scared to death of the United States. And guess what? They took full advantage of that. I want you to think about that. When Japan attacked the United States, did it attack the school? If you ever been to Pearl Harbor, the homes, the schools, and everything else, the regular citizens' livings is so close to Pearl Harbor. If Japan wanted to attack the overall citizens of the United States or the civilian population, they could have dropped their overall torpedoes and gunned a bunch of homes. But what did they do? They attacked the naval vessels. What did the U.S. do? Because they prompted them to do that, because they wanted to have a reason to drop those 2 bombs, because they knew they got the overall nuclear capabilities from the Nazis. And because they were in bed with them, they were going to use that overall, just like a Nazi would. They was going to have a scorched earth policy, just like a Nazi would. So what did they do? They dropped 2 nuclear devices on innocent women and children. It had nothing to do with Japan attacking Pearl Harbor. They could have attacked Lance. They could have attacked a military installation with those nukes. But right. You know what they did? They purposely chose to drop that in a populated area where there were many people, innocent people, because they wanted to have the overall, what every bully wants to do is scare the hell out of everybody else against resisting them.
That's right.
And if you look up the legal definition of terror, it means to use violence for political economic gain. That's what a terrorist is. And this is a fact that you don't get taught in school. They don't want you to think about. They want you to say, oh, in God we trust. This is the best nation, the most free nation, and everything else. But when you look at the overall factual truth to it all, it's a lie. This is why this country subjugated our people, our tribe, because that's what they do. That's what they do. They're colonized by force, by violence. Yes. And just what happens is this. You heard the old saying, right? The old saying, you're going to get what you deserve, right? If you live by the sword, you're going to what? You're going to die by it. You're going to die by it. So that's the truth. And I challenge anyone to say that's not the truth. And it's far worse than what I just gave. But I want to get back to where we are. So Russia has now ready to go. And what they did was they started slowly so that the U.S. and NATO could fall right into their trap. Or it was designed by all of these government entities together, because I will tell you, they all are in bed with each other because they know each other. They have the best interest of government being there. So they have continuity of government. So they are in an organization of fraternity, and that fraternity is against us. But let's get back to where we are here from what we get told, so we can see part of things that's really going on. So Russia starts off slowly because they were setting the trap. Russia had an opportunity with China in 2008 during the financial crisis to nullify the U.S., and it chose not to do it then. You know why they chose not to do it in 2008, Lance, at the financial crisis? It was right. They could have did it. They chose not to do it because they didn't have the overall glide hypersonic nuclear weaponry to defend themselves against it. So China and Russia decided, let's wait. Smart move. They don't need to wait anymore. Here's why. Russia engaged, and they wanted the rest of the world to start to respond so they could see who was going to be on whose side. All of those nations, I want you to think about this. Not every nuclear capable country in this world sided with the U.S. You know the nuclear capable countries that decided not to go with the U.S. was India. They remained neutral. But their remain neutral spoke volumes. India, China, South Africa. Why is that? Because they're all in a conglomerate organization that is anti-NATO and is going to break NATO and is going to usher in a new economic system that's based off of assets known as BRICS. Brazil, India, Russia, China, South Africa, and all the other countries that are there. Many of those nuclear countries want to be part of that organization, and they will be. Japan has never forgotten those two bombs. They're going to wait till the appropriate opportunity to, guess what? Get back. They didn't forget. They didn't forget. So Russia engaged in the Ukraine, and then all of a sudden the U.S. and NATO starts pushing these sanctions. Here's what's the key. The moment that the U.S. pushed sanctions, they just cut their own throat. And they was trying to destroy Russia, but what they really did is they destroyed their base. Once they weaponized the dollar, the U.S. is done. So now through the sanctions, they were able to get countries to say, hey, we're sanctioning Russia. You can't buy from them. You can't get things from them, which was the dumbest move ever, because these countries need what? They need resources in order for them to survive. Who has the most resources and the most plentiful and the most readily available and deliverable resources? It ain't the U.S. It's Russia. So initially it sounded good. And so they ganged up. Russia's a smart move. They let them gang up, pile on sanctions, do this and do that. And they slowly just stood there and took it. They let them destabilize their economy. And the reason why they let them destabilize their economy, because of this. Let them have their round. And it's like a fight. Russia strategically baited them into taking the first 2 rounds. But they're about to take the rest of the fight. And if you weren't able to knock them out in the first 2 rounds, they were done. And now they're done. Here's why they're done. What this means. Okay. So The rest of the world needs, all of Europe basically needs Russian resources. So they need to be in good relations with Russia. So once the US and NATO said that, hey, Russia is the enemy and we need to sanction them, you know what Russia probably told them? In backdoor deals, go along with the program. Because what we're going to do is that they're trying to dig a grave for us, and there's going to be their tombstone that they're going to place on their grave. So what they did was they let them do it, knowing full well that you're going to come back to us on our terms. That's the key. You're going to come back to us on our terms, Russia's terms. So they did the sanctions. So what did Russians say? Hey, you sanctioned us, you destabilized our economy. Our one Russian ruble is only worth less than a half a penny in the United States. There's no way in the world we could feed our citizens and survive off of that. So since you've done that, there's something that we need to do. You know what it is that they needed to do, Lance?
Yes.
They needed to weaponize their assets and their resources. So what did Russia do? They said, hey, you need our resources. You need our oil, our natural gas. And if you don't get that, your country is going to fall apart, not ours.
That's right.
Because we're still selling to India. We're still selling to China. We're still selling to other nations. Saudi Arabia now has flipped to where they're saying, hey, we're thinking about dropping the dollar as the overall settlement of Saudi Arabian oil. No, they weren't thinking about it. They're going to do it because they brokered the deal with Russia months earlier because they had to have a nuclear capable superpower to protect them once they dropped the US dollar. This is why they've been destabilized. That Khashoggi stuff and everything else was about a coup within Saudi Arabia, and the Saudis beat it. How did the Saudis beat it? Because of intel and support from the BRIC nations. And Russia, particularly because Russia and Saudi Arabia have a common interest. They're OPEC members, critical OPEC members. Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, and Russia, critical OPEC members. So what happened was that they weaponized their assets. Now they're telling countries, if you are a friendly country to Russia, you can buy our oil and our natural gas with your respective currency and or with gold or with Bitcoin. You can buy our resources. We'll sell to you. What did they just do? What did they just do? They made it profitable to be friendly to Russia, but they weren't stopping there. They said, but if you're unfriendly to Russia and you want to buy, they didn't say they wouldn't sell it to you, but they stopped delivering it. They said, if you want to buy Russian resources, then you're going to have to use gold or the ruble. Excuse me, not gold. Or you're going to have to use the Russian ruble to buy it. The G7 nations today said, wait a minute. No way in the world will we're sanctioning you, or we're going to start to subsidize and give you overall monetary support so you can have more weaponry and perpetuate your agenda more by taking out of our currency, getting the ruble and buying your overall resources with it. That is making them exceedingly wealthy. They just made their overall assets a weapon. The G7 said, no, we're not doing that. Russia just laughed at them. Friday and Saturday, this is what Russia did. Knew it was going to happen. Smartest move ever. Russia pegged their ruble to gold. But they just didn't peg it to gold in an insignificant way. They did it the most, just a genius plan. This is what they did. Russia pegged, and it starts today, and it goes into June the 30th. And I sent that to Lance. Basically, what Russia did was this, is that they pegged the ruble to gold. So now, since it's being paid, the ruble is paid to gold. Now that also means that they also now pay the sale of resources to gold in Russia. There's a difference. Here's the difference. Now they just weaponized gold in the ruble to where it is counterintuitive, and it is a hindrance, a financial hindrance. I would say this. It's a financial burden for you to hold the US dollar now. And what it means is that you're going to go broke by holding the US dollar. Here's how they did it. What they said was they set it at a fixed price at $52 per gram, right? But the regular rate is about $63, $62 per gram. So now if you go to Russia and you want to buy gold, you can use Russian rubles to get the same ounce of gold and use less cash, but you get the same gold. So what they just did was they nullified the US dollar by 35%. Because if you need to buy gold in the United States, guess what you have to give? Around $2,000. Do you see the brilliancy in what they just did? They not only made it economically feasible, survivable, and necessary for you to actually want to engage in a relationship with the United States, with Russia, but what they did was they made it adversarial to your survival to deal with the US because of this. Let me ask you something. If you wanted to buy gold, would you rather pay $1,400 for it or $2,000 for it?
$1,400.
See, if you engage in Russian rubles and pay for your gold, and see, if you send gold to Russia, you're getting a gold rate at $1,400. What is that doing for your country? You're getting more oil at a better deal. They just nullified the dollar. So no country is going to now. What they were smart about was they stopped selling their resources to those unfriendly countries, and their overall resources are they're emptying out. They don't have natural gas and they don't have oil. Pretty soon, they're going to be running out of diesel fuel. They're going to be running out, and diesel is critical to what? Transporting food, folks.
That's right.
And everything else that's essential. So it wasn't just a one thing. They completely nullified the US dollar. Let me ask you something. If one country starts backing their currency with gold, what is the other countries going to have to do? If other countries don't do the same, this is what happens. That means that your currency is much weaker than the country that has a currency that's backed by gold or a fiat. Most people think a fiat means it's worthless. No, a fiat is what the government decrees. Russia has just decreed gold as a fiat. That means it's worthless. No, that does not mean that it's worthless. The economics, the true economic definition of the word fiat, you hear like the US dollar is a fiat. Most people think then they took the slang slogan of it, the saying means it's worthless. No. Fiat means that the government is by the government decree in the financial. That's the true financial definition of it. Means by government decree. So gold can be a fiat. Oil could be a fiat. A coupon could be a fiat. Water could be a fiat. Tape could be a fiat. Flowers could be a fiat. That means that the government is saying that this is what it's using as a fiat. As by decree as a medium of exchange in their currency. That's the true definition. So Russia has a fiat of gold in their ruble. So now if your overall fiat is debt and military might, the debt is too high. It's going to go into bankruptcy, into a default. And the military is no longer able to punk everybody around the world anymore, especially Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean for your dollar? Can I say it plainly?
Say it.
It's going to be used for what it should be, wiping your ass for shit.
Yes.
Because if you just got toilet paper, how much food are you going to get with toilet paper? How much oil are you going to get with toilet paper? How much natural gas are you going to get with toilet paper when another country is giving you a currency that you can actually exchange for gold at a gold window? Which one are you going to do?
That's right.
And what do you say to the U.S.? Right here. It's not personal, it's survival. I know I'm on your side. I agree with you, but I got to eat. I got to live. So what did Russia just do? It just nullified the US dollar. And by nullifying the US dollar, it just smacked the US dollar in all of its dependents. Who is the dependents? As I said earlier, is you. Is you. In all of these countries, HSBC today, guess what they just came out with, Lance? They said they are no longer writing or classifying the Ukraine as Russia as a Ukraine war. They're classifying as a conflict. You know why?
How come?
Because they're a major bank and they don't want to ruin relationships with who? Russia. So what would the U.S. tell them? Say, no, 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 no. Sanction them, get rid of them, do what we say. Guess what the banks are saying now? Nope, can't do it. Ain't gonna do it. Big business has a way of making enemies friendly, folks.
Mm-hmm.
And this is huge business. So now, it came out today, Lance put it up, they're pegging their ruble to gold. So now this is what you can do. You can get Russian rubles, right? Exchange it for gold, get more gold, and then take that gold and use it to buy oil. What did you just do to Russia's economy? You made them the #1 economy in the world.
So who cares about a sanction? Go ahead, brother.
Well, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. What Russia just did is just sanction the US dollar as worthless, because it is now. And all of the other countries, regardless of how they feel about the situation, is going to have to turn over. What do you think NATO is going to do? What do you think Germany is going to do? What do you think France is going to do? What do you think Britain is going to do? What do you think Japan is going to do? Japan holds the largest amount of US dollars. They're going to do what? We got to get rid of this shit. I mean, stuff. These coupons.
You were right the first time.
Me, myself, I've been seeing this for a while. So you know what I do? I get rid of this stuff. This is money.
That's right.
I left the toilet paper in the bathroom, but I got some toilet paper in my pocket. This is a currency. Debt note. Says it right here. This is legal tender for all debts, public and private. It's a debt note. Doesn't say that on this. This is money. So now they just see the U.S. was getting away with sanctioning people. They were sanctioning billionaires, and they have nothing to do with Putin's decisions. What were they really doing? That's asset forfeiture, illegal asset forfeiture. I want you to think about that. Just say, let's say Obama, when he had them kill Gaddafi, right? All of a sudden, the rest of the world said, you know what? Let's say you're a millionaire in the United States. All of a sudden, you know what? You voted for Obama. You're an American citizen. And you have this house in XYZ in Italy or whatever country. So what we're going to do, since you're an American, since you're a citizen of the United States, you're over here. We're going to take your Ferrari. We're going to take your home. We're going to take your bank account and everything else. How would you feel about that? See, we never really think about these things because we just think, yeah, but we don't think about what if it was done to you? So what are they doing? What the U.S. always does. The U.S. is the hub of discrimination, subjugation, and slavery. They're discriminating against these billionaires in Russia because they're what? Russian. That's what the discriminatory government always does. They make all their decisions based off of what? Discrimination. To subjugate people so that they could get wealthier. What did that Russian billionaire do? Did he make the decision with Putin? No. He was engaging in business. And all of a sudden they took his soccer team and took his boat because he's Russian? On what grounds? Oh, you're Russian, we're going to take this. No, you're stealing. So what do you think that these relationships with these billionaires have? Do you think that they have just casual relationships with people? No. They have black market relationships. And they have relationships with what? Major financial institutions. So what do you think that they're going to do? Are you going to get mad at the one that stole your boat and all of your and froze your accounts and everything else? Are you going to get mad? Are you going to get mad at the one that was like, hey, they're going to be doing this. We need to protect ourselves. You just made them stronger. Just made them stronger. So now by doing this, how does this affect you as a dependent? All of this cash that's used to buy oil in the rest of the world, they're not using this to buy oil no more. So since they're not using that to buy oil anymore, they're using silver and gold. Gold and silver is going to be a part of it as well. They're using that to buy it. I want you to think about something. What do you do with your old sneakers from 10, 15, 20 years ago? Or your old shoes? Mm-hmm. Your old clothes? Right? From 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. What do you do with those? Do you wear those anymore?
Nope.
Mm-mm. How many of you, once you take the trash out, how many of you ever go back outside to bring the trash back into the house?
Never.
Once you take the trash out, folks, never bring that stuff back in. So Russia just nullified the U.S. power base asymmetrically. So the only thing that the U.S. is going to be able to do, there was two people in history that wanted to stop selling oil in U.S. dollars. One wanted to use gold, and one you wanted to just do a different currency. And the other currency would have gave them a 14% profitability increase. And he announced it, and lo and behold, what did the U.S. do? Invaded the country, bombed them to death, which they accused Russia of doing far worse, far worse, killed more and more people, killed millions of people in Iraq. Remember what Saddam Hussein said, hey, we're going to start to price our oil in euros? U.S. invaded. Because they knew that without that dollar being in position, they're no longer relevant. They're no longer relevant. Muammar Gaddafi wanted to have the rest of the world, if they were going to buy oil, because he was the president of the African Union, they wanted the rest of the world, if they were going to buy oil from the continent, that they were going to have to use what? Gold, known as the gold dinar. What did the U.S. do and NATO do as soon as they found out? Started bombing the country, destabilizing the economy, and caused for a coup inside of the country. Remember Clinton? We saw it, we came, he's dead. That's what this country's done, it's history. So now, and at that time when Muammar Gaddafi did it, Vladimir Putin told him, no, not yet, wait. But Muammar didn't wait. And what was the one nation that was the upset the most? Was Russia. Because they didn't want the U.S. to have Libyan oil because of why? It was a strategical blunder. Because Libyan oil is known as light sweet crude. They didn't want them to have access to that. But it happened. So now Russia just nullified the dollar by pegging it, their ruble, to gold. And saying now, if you want to buy our resources, you have to use Russian rubles if you're unfriendly. So now if you're friendly, what is that going to do to all these other countries? Going to want to become friendly, and that by necessity. Now what does it do to the U.S.? Puts them in this position. The only way that they can do is to attack Russia directly. And they're going to try to do that through the Ukraine. Biden last week told the 82nd Airborne, you'll see when you get there. Talking about in the Ukraine. What did Russia say? The moment you have interference in the Ukraine, that country that interferes is going to regret that they're involved, meaning they're going to attack them. So what will probably happen is that they're going to come up with a reason to send in troops into the Ukraine, U.S. troops and NATO troops. Russia and immediately will attack them. And when they do, NATO is going to invoke Article 5. And when they invoke Article 5, before the ink dries on the paper, Vladimir Putin will use his advantage, hypersonic glide missiles. And poof, all the rest of the world is going to say, well, there's a new bully on the block, and they have a more equitable transfer of medium of exchange for goods, and they got rid of the old one. Maybe we need to switch to, and that's what's going to happen, folks. And what that means is this: your US dollar won't be able to buy anything. Most stuff in the United States comes from other places, and there's going to be a global food shortage because of what is happening in the Ukraine. They just missed a growing season. You can't get a growing season back once you miss it. And Russia is sanctioning fertilizer from being able to be moved, and the U.S. is sanctioning. So not only there, but everywhere else in the world, there's going to be a global food shortage, and it's going to play right into Russia's hands. So you're not going to be able to buy anything. It's going to be far too expensive. Gas is, this is just the start, but food prices, everything is going to explode. There's only one way out of it. You can't be hustling to get more of this, because this is going to zero. It doesn't matter how fast you acquire this, it won't be at the same rate that this is losing its overall purchasing power. They just created $1.5 trillion in debt. You can't keep up with that. The only thing that you better do is you better do what the other countries are doing, and you better invoke yourself in getting real money while you still can exchange this for that at a rate that is beneficial to you. Because once this gets started, Lance, remember we did the call on HR 5404. This is where they said the U.S. Congress is going to back the currency by gold. And I said that once they do that, if you're not prepared for that, you are going to be nullified. Because what happens is that the U.S. doesn't want all of that debt to come back to them. So what are they going to do? Pass it to its citizens and its taxpayers. And that's where the default is going to stop. The countries are getting rid of it. Vladimir Putin and BRIC nations punished it and actually sentenced it. And then all the countries got rid of it, came back to the U.S. The U.S. government did what? Oh, let's give it to the buyer of last resort, the citizens. You're going to have so much cash. You're going to have so much cash, but you ain't going to be able to buy anything with it. And this is where, for those of you that have been in other countries, you know, when you have a strong currency, you're able to live a whole lot better. And those that don't have a strong currency, what are they doing? They live in third world status. That's what the US is going to be, folks. Because they have the most debt of any nation in human history. That doesn't get nullified. It goes into default. So, what is it that you all need to be doing? You need to go back and listen to that other one that we did years ago about HR 5404. You need to be protecting yourself, digging me pronto. You need to be paying attention. You need to be giving an interest to this like your life depends on it, because not only does your life depend on it, your family does as also. One of my clients famously said to me, David, they'll understand when their belly button hits their spine, but it'd be too late then. I don't want y'all in that position, because not only is this going to be a very dangerous, disastrous time, it's also going to be where a lot of wealth can be transferred to you. And it's based off what you do and what you know. Based off what you do and what you know. So what I would want to do for you guys, April the 23rd, I will hold a seminar via the internet for you guys to get you up to speed on how to navigate this, how to get through this, how to benefit from it, how to profit from it. Because there are definite steps to do that. We've been telling that, hey, this is here. You need to know what to do and what not to do, right? And you need to learn that and then apply it, okay? So April 23rd, I will hold a seminar for you guys, okay? And if you're going to be interested in that seminar, this is what you're going to do. And before, because we're going to also hold a seminar again on May the 20th. And that can be in person, but depends on what's going on in the world. It may have to be online as well. Either way, we're going to do that. But for you all, we will do that. And in that seminar, you will learn what it is that you need to be doing actively right now. I will show you what is happening, where it's going, and what you need to do, okay? And that seminar is going to be $300. Then the seminar for the one in the 20th, the in-person one, that one is going to be $650. It's going to be well worth it. Because not only that, there will be opportunities that will be given to you by just being a client and affiliated with our overall organization, Prosperity Mint. So if you would like to engage in that, what you're going to do is this. I'm going to give you a number. You can text me and you can email us, because I had to put all this together, because now that this is happening, the whole world is completely going to change. You got to get out in front of it. It's not going back to what we were accustomed to and what we were used to. But the overall opportunity is going to be so much more. So here's the number you're going to text. Okay, ready? 951-790-8330 is the number you would text if you would like to engage in the seminar. 951-790-8330 for the April 23rd seminar. Or you can email info@prosperitymint.com. It's right there, info@prosperitymint.com. We'll send the overall Cash App for that. And the Cash App is $Prosperitymint1.
That's a number one, or is it spelled out?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the numerical number one. $Prosperity Mint, in the the number one.
We got you.
That won't mess me up. Our window of opportunity for preparing is closing. The U.S. is not going to be able to survive this economically. So what is the U.S. going to do? They're going to do like the rest of the world. They're going to back their currency by precious metals. And we've been taught to only value the paper, right? Because we've been taught by buying something, oh, that's how you do it. Well, that was true. But what we didn't do is that we didn't get taught the purchasing power of that exchange. There's going to be a new currency that comes out in the US. This is going to be defaulted on. It's going to be a new currency. It's going to go to zero. The new currency is going to be a fiat of gold. It'll be a piece of paper as well, but it's going to be anchored to gold and silver. I will tell you, if you have the underlying asset that the overall currency is anchored to, you're going to win. But you have to do it correctly and how to do it and know why you're doing it so that you will be able to navigate all of the overall financial adversity. They just killed the United States because the United States arrogantly and brassly and bullyingly allowed itself to get caught. Because they need to zero out this debt. So who are they going to zero out this debt on? The bankers? The countries? No, they're going to zero the debt out on the citizens and taxpayers, the buyer of last resort. And if you understand how that process works and what to do during that time frame, you're going to do very, very well. Very, very well. So Russia did that today, and it's going to start to unfold globally. Watch how the language, real language about Russia is going to start to change. But the U.S., in my opinion, is probably going to try to push it. I really thought that there was going to be a good chance that there could be a nuclear war. But now I see that because of this move is so decisive, they may have just nullified that. They won without firing a shot. But that's really where we are. But Lance, bro, I just needed to really get that out with you. I definitely are going to want you engaged in these seminars with us, and I'll reach out with you on how we're going to do that with you.
Yes.
And it's, it's just, really where we are. But once again, let me see. Oh, someone said, is there another way to pay besides a Cash App? Yes. Text me, and then we can get that taken care of.
Right.
So
I'll put this up again.
Lance, it's here. It's here.
I know.
We go back and all of it is there. We've been telling, and is here. Here's where, and this is what it is. We can't stop it, but I've chosen to have the appropriate reaction to it that's going to bring, prosperity, that wealth transfer to my family.
Yes.
And that's what you could do it too. Every single person could do it. You just need to know how to do it. You just definitely need to know how to do it.
That's right.
So, my brother, thank you. I got to get some lunch because I got another meeting to get into.
Yes.
And that's we'll catch up again, but that's the real smackdown is the US dollar and all of its dependents. You better divorce the dollar now. You better sever your ties with the dollar now. And there's an appropriate way to do it. We will show you and tell you how to do it.
Beautiful.
Lance.
Brother Dave, it's always a pleasure. And I just want to say the point that you made about this happening, and possibly we may not have that nuclear war. With this happening, this would be worse.
There it is, Lance. There it is, Lance. Without the infrastructure damage. You're absolutely right, Lance. Yep.
And that's a whole other show or explanation from you that we'll do. And I appreciate all the time. I know you're a busy man and you take the time to come by and you school us on these things. And like I said earlier, after this show is over, you cannot tell me that this is not the absolute truth. This all fits in. And I'm just so grateful for you in my life, because with all the distractions that are out here and all of the falsehoods, you tell it like it is. And there's not one thing that you've ever spoken on that has ever been wrong. And you're quite prophetic, because look, I have the link here for all of the old shows that's on LANCESCURV.com. I'm gonna put this link again. This is the category page of Brother Dave and all the shows we have done. Go listen to them. If you like what you heard today, go on there and click on them and share that page with everybody that you possibly can in the show today. And you can see from years ago, he was speaking about this very day to come. This is not a shyster. This is not somebody who he's already got his life together. He's trying to help those of us who don't know and school us, not from ego, not from profit, but business is business. But what he gives us is a lot more valuable than us running down to get our toes done by the Korean shop and getting our weave done and going to the club and getting rims on the car. This is the real deal here. This is life. You run to the past and bring all your money. This brother here is giving us life, and not just hope, but a definite way out in this world that's about to become entrapped, especially if we live in America. Brother Dave, we love you. Thank you so much. And we anxiously await the next time you come onto the show.
And you know, Lance, before we get out of here real quick, this event is going to happen regardless if you respond to it or not. The thing is that I don't want you to lose everything that you worked so hard for. But it's not just your loss that's going to happen. We are going to go into an economic surf system. Excuse me, an economic caste system. In the economic caste system, if you are born within a certain classification, there's no way for you to get out by working, winning, producing, begging, or criming out. You stayed in there because it's an economic caste system. This is going to be the most thorough economic caste system ever, because it's going to be based off of assets. You either have them or you don't. And you won't be able to get them. You're gonna be locked at where you are. So I don't want you to lose what you worked so hard for, when there's going to be a wealth transfer that can give you generational wealth way beyond your existence in the physical world. That's right. That's what this is really about. Yes, Lance, you're so true. This is going to be worse than a nuke. You got it. You knew it, man. And I was just glad that you picked up on that, and you know it. This is what we know. We've seen this, and we're gonna have to. Now we're gonna live it. So, Lance, I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone here. Reach out to us, and we will definitely get you squared away. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, Lance.
Okay, brother. Next time, and we'll talk. Peace. All right. Peace. All right.
I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm trying to do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes, sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they said. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Can't be a real nigga, might get you canceled. Fuck the whole system, need the shit dismantled. Coppers treat a nigga like the utmost wanted. Tryna rule the block, but don't know what goes on it. News got a story with a new take on me. Carrying out the window with the screw face on me. But I know that God love me when my blunt burn. 95 degrees and I can't get sunburned. Wonder when your government don't make me legal. Burn the whole city if I can't be equal. Get off my dick, please, Brad, I earned that. 400 years, how you still ain't learned that? I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm tryna do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes, sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Shout out to the crackers trying to gentrify the genre. Tell them free my niggas, middle finger to your honor. End of days coming down the seconds on the timer. Goofy niggas still trying to purchase that designer. About to buy a chopper, learn to grow my own food. Cause I don't like the look they give me in the Whole Foods. And when you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. But it ain't on me now, I'm limping cause my dick heavy. But ain't shit sweet, niggas think we thin. My whole attitude on MC Ren. It's my neighborhood now, Bob, I bought that. 400 years, how you still ain't caught that? I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm tryna do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes, sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out.